Welcome back to my channel, Ed Paget here, or welcome if you're new to the channel. Today I'm going to lead you through 3 key exercises that might just be the key to unlocking tight hips and beating back pain. As a guy that's always struggled with tight hips, and I've had a history of back pain, these exercises are my go-to. You see, tight hips means that your back has to do a little extra work. And if you have things like scoliosis, arthritis, bulging discs, nerve pinching, or even a spondylolisthesis like me, your back just doesn't want to do that extra work. Now, these exercises will help get your hips and back functioning optimally again. Now, before we get into the exercises, if you like videos like this, all I ask for in return is that you hit the like button or subscribe if you haven't already, because doing that really helps out the channel tremendously. And in return, I'll do my best to respond to as many of the comments as possible. Thank you so much. Now let's begin. Okay, I want you on all fours with your knees apart. You're going to get into what we call the frogger position. You're going to move your hips backwards and forwards, feeling a stretch in your groin. You can have your feet wider apart or narrower, that is up to you. Whatever makes you feel the most stretch. The key is to try and keep your back from moving, so you're keeping your back slightly arched, trying to lift your tailbone towards the ceiling or the sky. You can also raise your hands if you want, and that helps keep your back nice and straight and puts more emphasis or stretch into your hips. You can take your feet and turn them outwards, and your toes pointing outwards as well, if you find you need more stretch, or even just bring your knees further apart. The idea is to move backwards and forwards for a minute to really start to loosen up your hips. Okay, now we're moving into a modified pigeon. So you take one leg back behind you, and you can actually straighten that back leg up and lift it up off the ground. The leg that's in front of you is bent, and you should be feeling the stretch on the leg that's in front of you in your glute area. You can take your back leg toes down and use your toes to push yourself forwards and backwards. This is going to put the stretch on more as you go back and then off a little bit as you go forwards. You could also use a stool to lift up your upper body and put more emphasis into your hips when you do this. As you do it, you can shift your weight slightly left and right, and that can actually increase the stretch to your hips when you do it. If you want to increase the stretch even more, you would take your front leg that's bent underneath you and move it slightly further out in front of you. Simply do the same stretch on the other side. Remember, the key points here are to have your back knee off the ground, using your toes of your back leg to push yourself forwards and backwards. Try and keep your upper back and your lower back straight as possible, emphasizing the drive into the front hip. You can increase that stretch by moving the shin and the foot of the front leg further away from you. You can also play with angles of your upper body. So here we can move just a little bit to the left, and that can increase that stretch. Or you may find going to the right increases the stretch as well. Next, you're going to be in a kneeling position with one leg out in front of you, and you can put a hand on a chair or the wall for support. I want you to go forwards until you feel a stretch in the back leg and the front of the hip. And then you're going to come backwards, and you're going to feel a stretch in the front leg and the hamstrings. So we're going front hip stretch, hamstring stretch. Front hip stretch on my right side, hamstring stretch on my left side. And you can move your hand forwards towards the ground as you're going back into the hamstring stretch. So this really is a dynamic stretch that's stretching one side in one direction of extension, on the other side in flexion. You can use a small step to give you a little bit more balance if you want, and you can drive up and down with your other hand. It's always a good idea to have something to hold on to when you do this stretch, because it actually makes your body relax just a little bit and you can go deeper into the stretch. Okay, simply reverse sides, and here we're going to stretch the front of the left hip and then the hamstrings of the right leg. So it's front hip stretch, hamstrings. As I do the front hip stretch, I'm really trying to tuck my pelvis so that my back doesn't go into extension and sort of arch too much. So I'm trying to keep a relatively straight lower back as I go forwards to get the stretch into my front hip. And when I go backwards, I will be leaning forwards and bending the back a little bit, but again, I'm trying to keep my back relatively straight so all the movement happens in the hip joint. So now I want you to go back to the beginning and just follow this through again, really working on getting the stretch to be deeper into your hips. If you're interested in learning more about scoliosis exercises or want to explore the scoliosis correction protocol, be sure to check the link in the description below. And as always, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you found this video helpful.